Swim Chats, a podcast about swimming. I'm Shona Riddell, a writer and swimmer from Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. For each episode, I talk to a different guest from our global swim community. Please hit follow so you don't miss an episode. To support the podcast, you can leave a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts, which helps other people discover it. If you're a regular listener, please help me to keep running Swim Chats by subscribing on Patreon for $5 a month. You get previews of upcoming guests, the chance to ask questions, and lots of good karma. To find out more, visit patreon.com/swimchats. There's a link in the episode description. Cool. All right. Well, talofa lava, Seti. Thank you for your time today.
Kia ora, Shona. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I don't do many podcasts. This is probably the first.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. Oh, well, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm very keen to talk to you about all the swim events that you run, but first I thought it would be a good idea to talk about you and your own swimming,
Sure.
because your swim story is pretty fascinating from what I've heard. So let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Samoa, is that right?
That's correct. I was born last century in 1961, like a lot of a lot of our swimmers today. But I grew up in Samoa and came here with the family when I was a teenager. And then spent a lot of my life in South Auckland, attended school in South Auckland, and worked in South Auckland. Now we live in the Hibiscus Coast. So it's a transfer as it is of living situations from then to now. So I now live just 5 minutes from the beach. So perfect for swimming.
Oh, beautiful. Well, for people like me who haven't yet been to Samoa, would you mind describing a little bit what it was like there when you were a child, and which part of Samoa you lived in?
Right. Yeah, sure. I was born in a village called Whaliwha, and that's where I grew up until I was 14 years old or 13 years old when we came to New Zealand. So that's quite a long time ago. Our village is coastal, so coast and mountains and rivers and the sea. Growing up, we were discouraged to go anywhere near the water at all. And so I remember my mother smacking us, disciplining us in the way they did back then if we went to the water. And so a natural fear of the water then developed. And I'm not, I think that's true for most Samoan youngsters. And so as you're growing up, you get to say, well, the water is dangerous. And so therefore swimming wasn't encouraged. But it was right there. So, but I did go to the beach and I did fish off the rocks. I did experiment with swimming across the channel and across to the other side of the river. So incidentally, I've just gone back there to my village, and my village hosts some of the iconic swims of the Samoa Swim Series, 5 islands and the Samoa swims that we have done over the years, such as the Whaliwha Falls swims, and the Piula Cave Pool swim and the open water swim from Whangaluatai back to my village. So those are some of the amazing swims that we have. So
Well,
I've returned there and
yeah.
swim. One of the swims is from ocean to a waterfall and out to ocean again. So it's very rare that you have that kind of swim. So that's where I grew up, and that's where now my craft, if I can use that term, is sometimes exercised.
Yeah, the swimming sounds absolutely beautiful. And you mentioned your parents, so were their generation not swimmers either? And was that because of fear of the risks of swimming? Was it fear of things that sometimes we're afraid of here, like sharks, for example, or was it broader than that?
It would be the same.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's a fear of the deep. We are happy so long as we can touch ground. All right.
Yeah.
So I think most Pacific Islanders would go swimming and describe swimming as going to the sea and staying within your so long as you touch ground, that's the swimming that we like. And that's true for not just Samoans, but every Pacific Island. So the idea of going beyond beyond your reach and swimming in the absolute deep is not something that's encouraged. And there's several reasons, not just a fear of the deep. There are a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is, well, we're just too busy as a people, we go to school, we come home from school, and then as youngsters, we go to the plantation, we harvest and we grow, we come back from the plantation, and then we cook. Youngsters do the cooking for the family every single day. So by the time nighttime comes, there is no time for anything else. We might have a 20 minutes in the end of the day to play, but then we have evening prayers, and we come home for that, and then we eat, and by then there's nothing, no day left. It's all gone.
Yeah, it's
So
a real
it's also part
community.
of that, yes.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And you mentioned that you moved to Auckland. Was it when you were a teenager?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
what was that about? Was that when you started learning to swim? Is that when things changed for you?
I didn't learn to swim until much later on. I would have to say that I did take a couple of risks crossing from with the village kids. Now, those who live right on the river, they're good swimmers, right? And it's not all of us live right by the river, and so I remember as a youngster going to the river and swimming to the other side across the Whalewha Falls estuary that goes across. So many of our swimmers that go up will know this. So, and crossing that narrow channel, that's is probably how I first learned to float. Uh, I moved here in '74 and had a really good experience with high school back then for many of us. We had swimming pools in high schools, and at Otahu College, there was a good swimming pool. And then I started to see that swimming was a sport. Now, I didn't participate in any of the swimming events. I was still very afraid of the water, and I couldn't swim. It was swimming for me began in 1985, I think. That's the year my wife and I, were expecting our first child. And I remember her going to, yes, part of of the late stages of pregnancy was going to the Papatoetoe swimming pool, 50-meter swimming pool, outdoor pool, and she would do laps. She knows how to swim, and so my wife is Palangi, a Kiwi New Zealander, and so she knows how to swim, and so I would see her doing her laps, and then I began to try and experiment at the same time. So that's 85, 86, and that is the genesis for me of swimming, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I've got two kids myself, and I can remember that feeling of going to the pool when I was pregnant, and it's just bliss, like just that feeling of weightlessness. Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I I felt like a pregnant woman swimming in the Papatoetoe pools myself. But one thing I did find is after a few weeks, oh, I could actually swim a length. In terms of, I was, swimming like an iceberg, of course, but you can, I can start one side and get to the other side, and then have a rest and do it again. So I actually thought, yeah, this is possible.
Yeah. And it's such a good feeling making it from one end of the pool to the other
That's
for
right.
the first few times. Yeah. I learned to swim. I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but I didn't learn to swim properly until about 5 years ago. And just that feeling of
Right.
achievement you get from being
Yes.
able to swim a whole lap. And then you sort of feel like the world has opened up and you've got
Fantastic.
this
new skill, right? Yeah. So for you, was there somebody coaching you, or did you just sort of teach yourself and figure it out?
It's just self-taught. Then in about 2003 or 2000 and late 2000s, actually late 2000s, 7, 8, 9, I joined I joined a swim squad in Mount Roskill Pool. So I was living there at the time, and that was run by Hilton Brown's swimming, and so that was a squad I joined, and the squad was coached by Carmel Dixon. She's Roskill Masters. And so every now and again, Hilton will come down and have a look, and so on. So if there was any coaching, it was instructions from the side with regards to during squad time. This is how you swim. I was always in the slow lane. I was the slowest person in the slow lane. I probably was. Could probably be called the mayor of the slow lane, because that's where I didn't
That was more
progress,
ice.
no speed whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I religiously turned up to squad 3 days a week for a couple of years, and just gain confidence and fitness. And then from the pool, the ocean swims were talked about. There were ocean swims. And so I then went with our squad to the ocean swims in St. Heliers, Kohimarama. And so the journey began, and that's how it began. I remember, if you know Kohimarama, I know Kohimarama and St. Heliers that area is the capital of ocean swimming in the country. If I might, because there's so many swimmers now. But and so we all know the geography and the lanes and the buoys. They haven't changed for a long, long time. So even out of the in front of the St. Heliers changing rooms, where the first seals swim a lot of the time. I going out to the white markers that's only 100 meters offshore. That was a challenge. That was an absolute challenge for me, and I freaked out. And then one day I ventured out to the yellows in St. Heliers, and I remember getting that far, and then they must have seen I was frightened and escorted me back to shore. Um, so, that was the journey that was the start of the journey for me.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it must have felt huge that moving from the pool out to the open sea, and like you say, every step along the way, going a little bit further out to the next buoy,
Yes,
it's a big deal, especially when when you're learning to swim as an adult, I can just imagine.
right. Yes. So,
Yeah.
and we all have different phobias, and that was mine. Was afraid of the deep sea, and it took a while, and then eventually I learned to swim on my own in the water. And then when I came to that uh, level of swimming, or got to that level of swimming, it was a freedom defining moment in my life, because then I didn't have to rely on anybody to be there. I
Yeah.
started to do a lot of the swims around the bays, and swimming on my own to the White Stick and back, Kohimarama to the White Stick and back, to the Red Stick in Mission Bay. Now, back then in the early 2000s, those were good distance swims, and it's something to get to the White Stick and back. Um, and so I remember soon after that, not long after that, I decided to swim to Rangitoto on my own. There was the Rangitoto swim, of course, is the annual fixture, and at that was a long swim at the time when I was starting to swim. Like everybody, 4.6 kilometers across from Rangitoto to St Heliers. That is a long swim. Um, so I had done the Rangitoto a couple of times by then, and I decided one day to swim up there on my own. I
And
said to my friend Mark,
what made you decide to do that in particular?
well, because my confidence, I was overconfident, more confident in my ability. And I wanted, that was the next goal for me, a next challenge for me. And I said so I went to register as you do at the viaduct for the swim. So went to register, and I said to Mark, my friend Mark, who still swims today, I said, mate, look, I'm going to swim to Rangi. I take my bag. I didn't want anybody to stop me. Don't tell anyone. And so I drove back to St. Heliers, and I swam to Rangitoto on my own. No tow float, of course, those days, and no kayak. And so I got there before the ferry got there. It took me 2 hours probably to swim to Rangitoto. And I got there before the ferry docked from the registration that morning.
That's
Uh,
incredible. And did you enjoy the swim? What was it like?
I was fearful the whole time because
Yeah,
this is now beyond is past the yellow markers, and I've never been that far, and this is probably a stupid thing to do. But of course, when you're halfway to Rangitoto, there's only one way to go. Well, there's two ways to go back or go forward. So I decided to continue to Rangitoto Wharf, and at some point, the Coast Guard who were there for the swim, saw me probably a K out because I was now amongst the traffic. The ferries, the boats going by in the channel. So the Coast Guard came out and guided me through. And Roger Rosolsby, who who leads the First Seals, saw me from the wharf because he was there with his boat, ready for the swim that day. And no, nobody knew who that nutter was. No support, I could have easily been run over by a boat that morning. Look, that was only a year or two after I started with the squad in Mount Roskill, and it's something I would advise anyone never ever to do on your own. But I did it. I got there, and then I swam back in the race, and did my first Rangitoto Double. Uh, well, with a couple of years before 2008, 2009, something like that.
wow, that's incredible. So you're in the open sea and you're going further and further. What was the next goal after the Rangitoto Double?
I did several doubles at Rangitoto because that was the goal. My swimming is so slow, Shona, that I as much as I wanted to do the long 25, 30, and I planned to do all those swims, but my swimming is so slow that I didn't get to the long ones. But I did swim. With my son in 2012. I remember the day. It was January the 2nd, 2012. And the swim from Kohimarama to Rangitoto Wharf, Rangi Wharf to Browns Bay, and Browns Bay back to Kohi. And that is the longest swim I've ever done. And my son,
How
Nick,
far is that?
it's 14 kilometers. And
Wow.
a lot of people are swimming it now. And I recorded that. It's a YouTube video with that. And my son Nick documented that. He's on the kayak with his fishing rod following me across. and he had never been to Rangitoto. Yeah, so that was his first time to Rangitoto, and from
That's
there
cool.
to
That's
Browns
really
Island, and
special.
yeah, so
Is it the swim known as Seti's Triangle?
it's become it's come to be known as that. So, and I said to
Yeah.
Mike Cochran earlier this week, or was it last week? Because we're looking at we're watching the lot of the swimmers doing that now. And I said, Mike, there's got to be a better name than Seti's Triangle, and but he said, well, it's just a name that it's everybody's happy with that name.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It's iconic.
Yeah,
Um, so what you said before about being a slow swimmer, I can relate to that. I'm not particularly fast either. And I really like something that you say on your website, which is for some of the events, do it in your own time,
right.
which I think is really cool. Because, yeah, a lot of the events, there's a cut-off time and you need to sort of be faster than the cut-off time to complete the swim. But I really like the idea of just doing it, finishing the swim at a time that you're able to do and also feels right to you. I think that's really cool.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you got to give people like me the opportunity to reach the finish. But I also think that's a lot of the swims that, for example, that Kay Muller leads, and it's all about getting everybody to get there and achieve that finish, and then that's what we're all about.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And so, was it around the time of the 14K swim that you started running your own events, or did that come later?
It was soon after that. As squads go after training, you get together for coffee, and so and one morning, somebody in the squad at coffee. This is the Mount Roskill squad. The Not the Mount Roskill squad. The Onehunga squad where I was part. So the Onehunga squad. So um, one morning somebody said, "Why don't we go to Samoa? Why don't we go to Samoa?" See, but that kind of thinking was very. I didn't even think of that. It wasn't me who thought, "Let's go to Samoa." And so the first tour of Samoa, took place in 2011, um, as part of that squad, and we went. And then in 2011, we had a great tour, and some of those people are still swimming today from the Mount. So the Orihanga and the Mount Roskill squads we're all in the same club, and quite a lot of us went to Samoa that year, and then the Samoa Swim Series was born out of that. The Samoa Swim Series, the first series, then was in July 2012. That's only couple of months, a few months after I did that, the triangle. And so the journey from the triangle, from squad to triangle to several doubles, rangi and back, I probably did 7, 8 doubles in that time frame before the Samoa Swim Series was born. And then in 2012, the Samoa Swim Series was born. And then other swims followed. In 2015, the Upolu Straight swim uh, was the first swim that we did in Upolu Straight with Mike Cochran and two others. And then every year since, other than the pandemic years, the Upolu Straight has taken place. So that's sort of the transition and the progress.
Was it a
Of
big learning curve for you
It was a
starting to
learning
run it?
curve because one, I'm not a swimmer. And two, I'm not an organizer of these type of events. I've got the lives of people from all over the place in my hands, and here I was organizing events. And it wasn't just swimming, because I started to run triathlon events, and formal triathlon in Samoa in 2013, cycling events. And so all of a sudden, I'm doing all these things, and I still do all these things. Triathlon and cycling. I have a tour of Samoa as a result of that. The Warrior Race, the 3-day Ironman race that now takes place in Samoa, and a whole lot of other events that take place in Samoa. So it was a learning curve for me, particularly with swimming. It was new. And the first tour with the club that went to Samoa in 2011, I had no idea, uh, because my concept of swimming was going to the beach, sit down, and so it was very new, and I had no idea in that first tour exactly what to do with regards to swimming from point to point. So that was a big, huge learning curve. And come the first Samoa Swim Series, I had seen the swim series around here, of course, and I see, oh, there's a marker there, there's another marker there, there's another marker here. Oh, okay, that's how it's done. And so that's how the learning took place.
Yeah, that's cool. And now you run events in Tahiti and Rarotonga and other parts of the Pacific as well, which just look amazing.
Well, that's true, because a lot of our people in Samoa came back year after year, and after a while, after 5 times of returning to Samoa, they want something different. So that's how the wider Pacific, the wider Moana Nui swims came into being by offering something different to the clientele. But of course, right now we have. When I started, there was nobody else. Fiji Swim wasn't there, and the other swim operators weren't there. It was just me. And the cool thing about that is now we have a whole lot of these other swim options for a lot of swimmers, because the sport has just multiplied several times since I started, as you might know. And so there's room for all of us operators to be involved. If I can take a difference, if I can find a difference, and everyone has a difference, and it will be this: I'm the only Pacific Islander uh, who operates swims in Moana Nui. I use Moana Nui because I'm changing my language around some of the things that we use for our craft. And so uh, that's how Tahiti came into being. In 2019, I had a tour of Tahiti of 40 people, you know. That was an experience, because I'm running a swim now with in a place I didn't know, in a foreign language. But that tour was amazing. Not only did we have 40 people on the tour that year, biggest tour that we've had in Tahiti, but also we had 6 people swimming Morea, Tahiti to Morea. And that was
Oh,
the time. That was the beginning of the Tahiti swims. Next week we have 4 people swimming Tahiti to Morea. And in July, we have a couple of people swimming around Bora Bora. And 3 times this year, Bora Bora will be a factor as well. There'll be other swimmers. So there'll be 2 or 3 times where I will be in Bora Bora. Um, and
and that would be
it,
beautiful. Like just the water there looks amazing. Oh, it would be a dream to swim there. It reminds me of one of the questions I was going to ask you actually. Like you run the Samoa Swim Series,
yeah,
which
sure.
is shorter swims sort of for people like me or swimmers like me who can swim a few kilometers.
Right.
Um, but you also have the ultra marathon distances that you
Correct.
offer, which is 20 plus kilometers. So if somebody signs up for one of those ultra marathon swims, do they have to sort of meet certain criteria to sign up first in terms of like a support boat? Do they have to have achieved a certain distance first?
Yes. We used to have a qualifying swim for Upolu Australia. You got to be able to swim 10 kilometers in under 4 hours. Now, we don't have a qualifying swim as such, but you have to prove now, but you have to prove that you can swim 10 kilometers in under 4 hours. So the answer to that question is yes. You have to be able to provide that time, and the reason for that is simple. Because if you can't swim 10 kilometers in under 4 hours, then you're going to run out of daylight or be extremely exhausted if if your time exceeds that. Now, I I'm a lot slower than that as a swimmer, even when I'm at my peak fitness. So I will never be able to do that swim unless unless I swim through the day and night. So yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And they need a support boat with them as well, I assume. So you
Yes,
prefer that in terms
yes,
of
yes.
snacks and drinks along the way because it's quite a long way.
Yes, oh yes, it's the same that we have here for the ultra marathon swimmers here. So a boat, a swimmer, a swim captain, somebody that is who's not the boat captain, just the boat captain is just there just to steer the boat. And you have a swim captain or support crew for feeding. But of course, now we have the ratification swims as well. So we have somebody that monitors the swim and makes sure the swim is conducted according to international marathon swimming rules. There are swimmers now who are undertaking some of our swims who don't care about ratification. They just want to get from point A to point B. So we are not worried about the recording so much. So there are several options available. But yes, boat swimmer, sometimes a kayaker with a swimmer, and also then make sure that we have a swim captain, somebody who's in charge of the swim. And for the swims that we do around the Pacific and here in New Zealand as well, I meet with a swimmer 3-4 times every month from about 5 months leading up to the swim. So I'm meeting with you like this, face to face. I look at your training program and see where you are at, and I say to you, mostly, I say to you, in terms of long distance swims, I said the second half is longer than the second half than the first half. So therefore, if the swim is 22 kilometers, I say you need to train to swim for 9 hours, depending on your speed. If you're usually under 3K an hour swim, and so you might do that swim in 6-7 hours, and I'll say, okay, train for 7 hours, 7+ hours, because you're going to be swimming that long. And so that gives you a target of most of the swimmers I work with. They gives them the target, and it works for them. Now, if the slower swimmers are at 8-9 hours, I would say to them, you need to train to swim Upolu straight in 10 hours. And so they, in their head, they're thinking, I've got to go to work that day for 10 hours. That's how you break it down. Don't think about the swim, the distance and the time from the start. Otherwise, you freak out. Just say, I'm going to work for 8 hours or 10 hours. And at the end of that time, I will reach my distance.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. And I know that you offer it's not an event, but a sort of a little swim series in Auckland. Is that the Rotorua swim over
Yes.
a few days?
Yes. So we just had one a few weeks ago. So I'm based here in the Hibiscus Coast, and we will set up what we call the Ocean Swim Club. And this, so that's operates here on the coast and also in the city. And that's a weekly gathering of people to swim in the beaches that are here. But also, I also have the swim retreat in Rotorua Island. Now, not many people know where that island is, even for those who live here in Tamaki Makaurau. But it's the perfect venue for a swim retreat.
Swim retreat,
Hey,
that's the word I was looking
you've
for.
been there?
Thank you.
Have you been to Rotorua?
I haven't. No, I would like
Okay.
to. I've
So
been to I've been to Waiheke. I think that's the
okay,
only.
yeah.
Yeah.
Waiheke. So Rotorua is as a motu where the Salvation Army had their rehabilitation centre for a number of years. They've owned that island for over 100 years. Purchased it in late 1800s. And so from there, they operated the rehab, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, Rotorua and Pakatoa. At some point, Pakatoa next door got sold off, and the Salvation Army held on to Rotorua Island, and until they moved their rehabilitation to the city. And so now the Salvation Army have leased out Rotorua to the Rotorua Island Trust, who have turned it into a magnificent conservation island where you go there during the day for a day visit and you encounter native life, the takahe, and you encounter beautiful birds. And then if you're staying there at night with the refurbished, beautiful accommodation on the island, there's 5 homes, and often we hire all the homes. So for 4 or 5 days, we have the island to ourselves and the amazing native sounds during the night. And then the next morning, we get up and we go for a swim. In the morning, have yoga, and then in the afternoon, we have swim and yoga. And we have kōrero after all that. And during the day, we have fabulous food. We have a permanent caterer that's been with us for a number of years, and she's amazing. And the good thing with Rotorua, which is, by the way, the name of the motu is Rotorua. Makes sense that it's another story. But it's morphed, it's changed over the time to Rotorua. It's just how language changes. You have 5 bays around the motu, and if it's rough on one side, if the wind is blowing from the south, we go to the north, and we have shelters swim. And if the swim is easterly, we go west. We go west, and so you have these amazing swims. And the other cool thing about Rotorua is that you have inter-island swims that are so achievable. Pakatoa is 1 kilometre away. Waiheke is 3 kilometres away. Pōnui, or Chamberlain's Island, is 2 kilometres away. And so you suddenly realise you have inter-island swims in your retreat. And one of the coolest swims that we have at Rotorua is our swim from Rotorua Island to the Man of War winery. We swim to the Man of War. We have wine tasting or lunch, or they don't serve coffee, strangely enough. And you have some nice food, a nice time, and then we get on the boat and go back to Rotorua, which we can see just down the road, or just across the water. How cool is that?
That all sounds so idyllic, and you've described it so clearly. I can picture it in my mind, and I might have to book for next February.
Would love to have you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'll link to your website in the episode description so people can go and have a look and
Sure. Thank you.
book some beautiful swims. Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, so Seti, you've accomplished so much in your own swimming, and now you're helping other people accomplish their own swim goals, which is cool. And we were talking earlier about the fears that people have around water. And I imagine you must encounter that sometimes when you're supporting someone on their own swim. So whether it's fear of deep water, fear of marine life, fear of something else, we all have things that we think about. What do you say to people, I guess, to reassure them if they're going through a moment of panic about being in the sea? Or does it depend on the person?
It depends on the person. By the
Yeah.
time a lot of the swimmers overcome the phobia of the water and other things lurking beneath the water very early on in their swim life. All right, just like me, they overcome that. Every now and again, the challenges are at the beginning of the journey for individual people. And I remember taking my colleague from work who's just getting into swim into not a swimmer, probably less of a swimmer than I was when I started, and he really wanted to go to the yellow marker at Kohimarama. Now, you know the distance is 200 meters offshore, and it's shallow. You and I know that. But he doesn't, right? To him, this is the end of the earth. And I remember taking him out there, and he panicked. He freaked out, like had a panic attack. Um, and so now he's putting himself in danger and me in danger. And so that's one time when I really had to decide what to do. So I had to forcibly shake him out of it. Otherwise, he was going to drown, and
Yeah.
calm him down. So what do you say to a person is that less is more. Slow your stroke, relax, and enjoy it.
Yeah. That's good advice for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can't, don't, yeah, especially if you are a new swimmer in the water. However, I still have adults in my squad right now who are excellent swimmers, very great, very good swimmer. And one particular lady who just will not go out of the deep because she has this great fear of sharks in the water. If only she would overcome that, she will she will have a great experience of the water. But she's had this for a long time. I mean, she's um, in their 50s, I think, and that fear just won't go away. I
I
don't
think
know how to.
people of our sort of generation, or people born in the 20th century in the 60s and 70s,
Yes.
we all saw the movie Jaws, or most of us did, and it's hard to shake that music out of your head, right? Sometimes when you're in the sea.
Well, exactly, and funny enough, she refers to that, and I've come across more so lately as new swimmers come to take the water, and they refer to that, and so there must be. Yeah, I'm not a whisperer enough in a swim whisperer enough to get her to overcome that. So she swims like a Samoan would close to shore, has a great swim so long as she can see the bottom and can touch the bottom.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I was like that for quite a while too.
Yeah, okay.
Some people have other mental barriers, like even if they're not afraid of the water, if they're thinking of doing a longer swim, or their dream is to do a longer swim, there's still that part of their mind that says, I can't swim that far, like that's too far for me. Do you have advice for people like that as well, who, they're good swimmers, but they just have that block where they don't believe
Right.
in themselves?
Yeah, one thing I've learned is you never overtalk a swimmer into a situation where they think it's beyond them. So I don't really do that. Uh, but if a swimmer is who has a challenge with distance, is training for an event, for example, the Rangitoto swim and that's and a classic example, Rangitoto to St. Heliers. That's the longest swim that you'll ever do in your life for most people. And when you get to the other side and at water level on the wharf, you're looking across to the other side. It seems endless. Fear develops, and you're looking at the whole distance all at once. So but the training is there for this person. They've been training for it for a long time, and so you break it down for them, and I say what I say to them now, slow it down, don't panic, relax, just relax. We are right there with you, um, and um, and so the swim progresses, and once they get in the water and they move, that's fine. and they become okay. But for some, I will never talk anyone into swimming further than their capability.
Yeah.
Unless that was the goal at the start.
Yeah. And can you tell what people are capable of when you see them swim? Like, do you get an idea of what distance they could go?
A lot of people under they have they don't think they can do it, right? We have swimmers in our squad that want to keep it there to a K distance, and anything over a K they can't. It's a little bit too much for me. When I know that if you can swim a K, you can swim 2Ks. You just gotta have more stops and more rests and take it slow. And so that's what I discover. And so every now and again I stretch. Like last Sunday, we swim from the estuary at in Orewa over to Moana Reserve in the centre of town. That's a distance of 2 kilometres. And that's when we have one of our Samoan swimmers who lives here on the coast. That was her longest swim. Now, if I were told her at the start, this is a 2K swim, she wouldn't have come. But I know that we're swimming around the estuary. You're 50 meters from land at all times. And she can swim a K easily, K and a half, and she's got a tow float. She can stop and hang on. So in that way, we had a swim that I think she could do, and we had the boat right next to her, and she she was ecstatic to swim 2 kilometers, her longest swim ever.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's a really good point, actually, that often people get fixated on the number, the number of kilometers
Right.
and sort of forget about just the feeling of the swim itself. And just having people around you supporting you makes just so much of a difference, doesn't it?
That's right. Look, I might have just contradicted myself there in terms of I will never talk somebody into a distance. If it was an inter-island swimming through the deep, and a person was, I'm pretty good at reading swimmers and knowing what they're capable of and what they're not, and also depending on the support that we have for a particular swim. In most cases, I wouldn't talk anyone into a 20K swim without knowing that they, one, do the training, and secondly, they have the mental ability to overcome any challenges. But in where I think a swimmer would benefit from extending themselves, or in my case, 2 weeks ago with our swimmer around the estuary, sneakily adding in another 500 meters to a swim that she would normally do. But I know that she can very well do it, and it's safe. Then I might sort of push the boundary a little bit,
Yeah, encourage. Yeah.
encourage her. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
And you know
And
what her next swim is going to be? It's going to be 2Ks. And she's now going to get thinking, oh, I can do 2K, and I can do 2.5.
yeah, that's cool. And do you still like to swim by yourself, or do you mostly swim with other people now?
I swim by myself because I'm very slow. I'm the slowest swimmer that there is on the coast, even including my squad. Tonight, being the last Wednesday of daylight saving, before the end of daylight saving is our final swim, and I never swim with the squad. I'm always on my own.
Yeah. And if it's not too personal a question, what sort of things do you think about when you're swimming? Like, are you thinking about your stroke, or are you thinking about what's for dinner, or just all sorts of things?
um, uh, I'm thinking this is hard work. I'm thinking, it's when you're fit, and you've got the fitness, and it's just beautiful gliding through that water, and you're not worried about your next breath. That's when your mind wanders to other things. You think about your family, and you think about so I mostly when I was fit, I mostly would think about some of the things I have to do that I haven't done. But at
Yep.
the moment, most of my thinking is, this is really, really hard.
Yep. Fair enough. And you're very busy. You know, you've got events running through the year in different places. Do you still have your own swim goals or dreams of where you'd like to take the business or run events?
Yeah, you're correct. My swim goal is try and swim once or twice a week. Well, once a week is not good. At least twice a week. And so if I have a swim goal, that's it. And it might be just 20 minutes. Make sure I'm in the water for 20 minutes. Uh, we I'm very busy at the moment. I don't just do swims. I just got back from Samoa this week, where I had the Samoa Run Series. We kicked off, and every month leading up to the end of the year, I'll be away at least once. In a couple of weeks or next week, I'm off to Brisbane for the Oceania cycling. So I'm the president, not the president, secretary of Samoa Cycling, and so I'm in Brisbane, and I come back, and then I go to back to Samoa, where we have our one of our swimmers taking on Upolu Strait, and every month there's something: swimming, a marathon, uh, a warrior race, triathlon, that kind of thing. But that's just the way my life has been for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you swim a lot in Auckland. Sometimes you're in Samoa, sometimes you're elsewhere. Have you ever swum in Wellington?
Yes, I have. I have. If I think I swam in Wellington when we had the New Zealand Ultra Marathon Swim Awards. That was held in Wellington, second week of June, without a wetsuit. So I would swam out to. I didn't swim to the lighthouse like some others did that day, but I swam past the water fountain. So probably spent about 40 minutes in the water without a wetsuit in the early June. I also swam in with a squad there from Kilburnie a few years back in August. Again, at the time, I wasn't using a wetsuit. So um, August in Wellington without a wetsuit is pretty cold.
That
Um,
is pretty cold. Wow, well done.
yes. So that's probably the coldest I've swum. I've swum in Dublin, in Ireland, in November without a wetsuit and that kind of stuff. So, but you know what? The funny thing is, now I'm struggling with the cold. So I don't know what's happened over the last few years. But yes, I have swum in Wellington.
Yeah, and in winter as well, which is an extra challenge.
Yeah.
10-degree water, if that.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Seti. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Is there anything else you want to mention that I haven't asked you about?
Look, we have a culture here in Aotearoa with so many opportunities for people, and there's so many people are taking to the sport, open water swimming, and so many people are enabling that as well. We're talking about people like you and I have a mutual friend with Kay Muller up in Lee, her amazing journey up there. There's others around the country, many other people around the country. And so, in this, the new a group that's reasonably recent, Twisted Sisters in Auckland, by Kylie Frost and her amazing amazing work. I volunteered for their swim couple of weeks ago. I have done that for the last 2 years, and I'm looking at now the sport not just as a swimmer, not just as an organizer, but also at supporting other people who are doing that, who are doing events. And I'm doing a lot of that. a lot of my time now is being used for trying to grow the club here in Auckland, based on the Hibiscus Coast and also in the city. And the reason we have that is investing a lot of my time into growing that is because I think there's a gap here for a group to exist on the Hibiscus Coast. But where the Takapuna with the Swiss, with Kylie and Lee swimmers and a whole lot of other operators around the country, and also take out my hat to people that have been there for a long time. So Roger Soulsby, with the first SEALs in Kohimarama, and people down in Nelson, the Nelson swimmers, and down there, and also down your way, the Kilburnie squad, and the Wellington Ocean swimmers, and the transformation of the sport is amazing. And we're seeing people really achieving amazing swims, transforming from a pool swimmer to an ocean swimmer to an ultra marathon swimmer. In a day or so, Jono will reach Wellington, and that
Yeah.
that's an amazing story. And other
Yeah.
people will follow his lead.
Yeah.
If
I was going to mention that.
and
Yeah.
so on. Other
Yeah.
people are swimming Cook Strait, Fovo Strait, and longer swims. More people. So my swim of 14 kilometers, that was a long swim back in 2012, is now only a training swim for most ultra marathon swimmers. So the
Yes.
sport
Well,
has
it's still a long
grown.
swim.
Yeah.
Need a lot of people, but yeah.
So
That was
kudos
all very
everyone.
well. Yeah, very well put, Seti. And I'll mention that Kay Mueller and Kylie both have their own episodes of this podcast.
Oh, great.
So link to those in the
Yeah.
description. So yeah, like you say, it's really awesome, all these swim communities that we have around the country and people being inspired to do more and achieve more. And especially timely that you mentioned Jono Riddler, because he is three days away. Yes, today is Wednesday, 1st of April, and he's scheduled to arrive in Wellington, swim into the harbour on Saturday the 4th. And there's
Yeah.
a group of us who are going to do some of the final part of the swim with
Yeah.
him. That's the to welcome him and support him. Not that he needs it, he's already made it this far. But a lot of very excited people to welcome him after his huge achievement of swimming down the
Oh,
east coast of Aotearoa. It's,
yes.
very inspiring. And also to see just the ripple effect of people being, seeing sort of the hope and what can be achieved by one person doing something incredible, and then it inspires other people to do something, even if it's just to sign his petition
True.
to look after the ocean. Yeah, so we're very lucky here in Aotearoa. Thank you so much for your time today,
Thank you.
Seti. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to swim with you one day.
I look forward to it.
Thanks for listening to Swim Chats. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or two. Also remember to hit follow to be notified when I post new episodes. To help other people discover the podcast, you can rate and review it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you're a regular listener, please visit patreon.com/swimchats to support the pod. Enjoy the water, and we'll see you next time.